From the studios of Foxboro Cable Access, located in the center of Foxboro, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxboro.
Welcome to another episode of Around Foxboro. My name is Julie Love. I'm your host. Today we have Kevin Penders for our guest. He's running for Boyden Library Board of Trustees re-election for his fourth term. Kevin, welcome to our show.
Jory, thank you very much. I'd rather be there in person, but here we are in our new world. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Kevin, please tell us that of all these years that you served as a board of trustee, why are you running again? Why are you going for the fourth term?
Sure. So I was first elected here in Foxborough in 2011. So this would be my fourth term if reelected, and I am running unopposed. So if I'm not reelected, then there are some other issues that I should be worried about. But I think the answer is really, and this is my second stint as a library trustee, I guess I should add also. I served 7 years in Wakefield, Massachusetts, where I grew up. So I've been affiliated with library trustee and library board work really since my mid-20s, which I'm not anymore. But I think the short answer is, the library is continuing to evolve as an opportunity to serve its community, both Foxborough, Wakefield, where I came from, and every other community that is fortunate enough to have a public library. And the challenges that a library faces to be able to meet the underserved or to meet those who really don't have the ability to just go to Barnes & Noble and buy whatever they want or download it online because they don't have that sort of access. And to bring us all as a community now, we've evolved from, I used to be, when I was a kid going to the library, you had to go to the card catalog. It was this massive feature in the middle of the library. It sucked up all this room and it had all these little cards, and you had to flip through them and find the book you wanted based on subject matter and then go somewhere in the library. It was like this great scavenger hunt to find what you needed. That's gone, right? You do that with a couple of clicks of a button now on a computer. And you ask a great reference staff or a circ staff, and they guide you where you need to go. You don't need to be a Dewey Decimal expert anymore. But the library has changed as well as a result of that. Nobody has a card catalog anymore. Those have actually been sold off to antique stores and to really interesting and fascinating collectors of strange old library nostalgia. And instead, we constantly now, our focus is all about how to get you in the building. What is it that brings you into the library? What program is it that brings you in? What opportunity is it to meet with, your fellow community members? And really, we have changed over the course of my time as a trustee. The focus, the mission is always the same, which is to serve the people of the community. But the how and to meet those needs has changed drastically and continues to change. And I think that's what's most fascinating about it for me.
So it's kind of segue into another question that I have is how has the library stayed relevant for the community in the day of increasing the technology usage?
Sure. I think that's a big challenge. And I think a lot of different communities or community libraries are trying to deal with it different ways. So I'm going to fiddle with my glasses so I can still see you and we don't end up with all this glare off my reflection. But, I think for us, we did a library expansion. When I first joined the board in 2011, we were going before a town meeting. We were getting funding for an expansion, which was being partnered with a state grant. We added a significant portion of new space, which you see now over the parking lot. And tried to rehab and make much more useful. We had water running through the basement right next to the children's room. So we moved the children's room. We've addressed sort of water runoff and a lot of the other issues we had in that older building, which still was meeting the needs of the community, but not in the best way it could. And now with the new space, when we've come in, in 2015, we're here in this new building, and we've been moving forward now for 5 years in that building. And the challenge has been daily. How do we get people excited about coming into the library? Because people really, you would think readership is down. People aren't reading books the way they used to, but they're reading books differently. And they're reading them online. They're reading them with a Nook. They're reading them with an iPad. and we're offering programs and we're offering technology that makes that more accessible for them. So whether it's Hoopla or Overdrive, or we've just launched another program called Canopy, those are all online resources that keeps our library open even when we're not, so that you can access those technology pieces and keep using that. The other thing we've seen is the need for programming. As everybody has an iPad, not everybody, or as everybody has a piece of technology, not to brand it, not everybody knows how to use it. We're offering training sessions on that for folks. We have programs with authors coming in, actual author lecture series. We have other programs for the kids. I mean, Mother Goose on the Loose and the Teddy Bear Picnic, and those things are staples for younger kids. But trying to find ways to access music programs on Sundays, and other opportunities to bring people into the building and make the library more of a social resource than just the old, I have a research project and I need to write a paper, which now you can do from home because of the wealth of resources that you have on your computer. Again, if you have those technology pieces. And if you don't, the library does. And that serves as a resource of last resort for a lot of people as well.
So the next question that I have is kind of similar to what I asked, but this one is kind of contrast that you've been on the board since 2011. So what continues to make you run for this seat, given that all changed ever since?
So thank you for asking that. I mean, for context for me, I think whenever somebody's running for something in town, my question to them always is, what's your hook? What is it that makes you want to run for this seat at this time? And I don't think it stays relevant for everyone for all time. But for me personally, a library is a very personal thing. I grew up using the children's room facilities and living in the library really as a kid. It was a place that you went multiple times a week, and you were allowed to carry a stack of books as long as you could carry on the way out the door. And so I did. I would rifle through whatever was, I remember there was the Time Life War series, there was a Time Life Cowboy series, and there were other books, up and down the aisles that I would just spend hours in that library with. That was as a kid. And then when you evolve to a middle school or a high school kid, the library was the place where you could go and quietly do your assignments and your projects. And get access to books and things that you needed for research that you didn't have at your fingertips at home. So that was your study carrel through high school. I'm a lawyer by trade. I studied for the bar exam sitting in the library. It was the one place where I needed to get up. Unlike today with COVID, where everybody is working from home, I couldn't do it. And so for me, I needed to get up and get out of my space where I was living so that I could actually sit someplace else as if I had an office, which I didn't. But that corner of the quiet reading room at the Lucius Beebe Memorial Library in Wakefield was my office for 3 months while I studied for the bar exam. And so that, just that sort of where you come from, access to that gives the library so much resonance to me. And through that, I joined the Trustees in Wakefield, as I've already mentioned. This library renovation is actually my second capital project. I did one up in Wakefield. We've done this one here in Foxboro. And I think that as a resource for the town, at the end of the day, it's the only resource, with the exception of police and fire, which you want to have available to you, but you kind of hope you don't see. The reality is the library is the one resource in town where everybody can use it. It's not catered towards the schools and school-age children. It's not catered towards the Council of Aging and the senior segment. It's not catered towards any one particular interest group. It's focused on providing something for everyone, and that resource really is important for the community so that we can cross-pollinate those experiences also. And that's really what I find fascinating as we've just talked about sort of the evolution of libraries, as we've gone from that card catalog experience to push button, I can get the card catalog at home on my phone. The reality of the situation is the library keeps evolving, but its core function and its need and the importance that it provides to our community really never changes. And I find that to be so important to be a part of. And I don't get tired of that, or at least I haven't gotten tired of that, coming into 18 years worth of trustee-based work. So for me, that's what keeps me running.
Wonderful. So I just want to shout out to Boyden Library because personally, Manny Lee thinks I have a hidden office there. That's how much I'm there. And then my kids love the books, and I just love the vibe and the staff, like, welcomeness, and just like I've lived in different towns and cities since like 1998 in Massachusetts. I've never really got so attached to the local library like Boyden Library, and I think
That's great. That's great. I'm glad to hear it. That's exactly what we want, right? That's exactly you're describing exactly that experience we want you and your kids to have when they come in the door. That's so critically important, and that's why. When we did the renovation, we talked a lot about what do we do to make this place exciting? What do we, everything that, the design of the children's room, the furniture that went back in, the layout of the space, all of those different things were contemplated when the project was going on to try to make it a more welcoming, more user-friendly, and just a more comfortable space. We want you to spend as much time there. I used to describe it really as the community's living room, and I think it still holds true. I just don't know how many people still use their living room.
Thank you. So I think the connection of you between library, you kind of mentioned that growing up you used that. Like, do you have any other particular fixture for you? Maybe a personal story connection between like you and library?
Well, so again, as I said, I've done 2 renovations, two projects, capital projects with libraries. The thing that always resonates to me is, in both instances, you need investment from the community in order to be able to move those projects forward, and not just the vote at town meeting, but we raised hundreds of thousands of dollars of private donations for the Boyden Library in order to be able to meet our commitment. We committed to the town that we would raise $500,000, and we did that, and then some, because the town shared that same level of commitment that we felt that the library was worth. So we had an event in both buildings. We've had an event to celebrate the donors, if you will. In Wakefield, we referred to it as quietly making noise, and we allowed people to come in. We had a miniature golf course set up. This was before the construction started, so it was really as we were closing the library. We had a miniature golf course set up. Kids could write on the walls in marker. People were dancing in the quiet reading area, and it was an event, right? It just sort of was like you're going to break all the rules in the library. When we opened the Boyden back up, we had an event for donors as well, and it was in the main reading room. And you saw, it was just such a welcome, warm. And for those of us who had been walking through the building, and I had the same experience in both, but that quiet moment before tomorrow we reopen, oh God, I hope everything goes right. And coupled with an hour and a half ago, I think I was vacuuming before the donors came in here. But to capture that moment and look around and take that pause and breath and say, I think we got it right. These people are here enjoying exactly what we wanted them to be enjoying. This is exactly why this project was so important. Those are 2 moments to me that capture it. And I wasn't really old enough to, or experienced enough, I would say, to appreciate it when I was in Wakefield and we did it. And for me, it was just a fun night out when we had that sort of moment. But looking back on it, having now done the second one and having sat there in that quiet moment again, before we reopen the doors, and been like, I've had this feeling before. I certainly didn't appreciate it. We have brought something great to the community, and boy, have we been fortunate to be able to do that because the community was invested in it. That's probably a simple one for me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And how can people get in touch with you if they have extra questions before the elections? Or do you have a website or Instagram or maybe email address?
So here's the beauty of being unopposed on the Boyden Library Board of Trustees. I don't have a campaign account. I don't have signs. I don't have a website. my comment is always, if somebody runs against me, it's because they're running for the best interest of the library. I don't typically raise money for this campaign. I've not had to do that, fortunately. And I did run in 2010 against two really wonderful people, well-qualified people, Fran Spillane and Ellen Pillsbury. We had all taken out papers separately, and somebody asked me on Foxboro Cable Access at that time, well, what is it that separates you from these other two candidates? And I started walking through my bona fides, and they're like, yeah, but what separates you? And I'm like, look, we're all running for library board. Our job here is to make this program, this facility offering more available to the community. Nobody who's running for library board is running, there's no smear campaign that you can run here. It can't be like, do you have any idea what their overdue library fees are like? Now, trustees typically are worse than others, but there's no real campaign in that way. So my answer to you is my information is available on the Foxborough Boyden Library website. I'll say it right here. If anybody has any questions about my candidacy, they can certainly reach me by email. I am at kfpenders, Penders, at yahoo.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm also in the phone book, and I am here. I live at 2 Highland Street in Foxborough, so swing on by and ask any questions. Certainly during COVID, we're here almost 24/7.
Great, thank you for that information. And then my last question to you, when you get re-elected for the 4th time, do you have any new vision, new exciting plan for Boyden Library that people can be heard? Like, what is your vision?
So I think we sort of have a short-term and a long-term sense of priorities, right? Our first focus is to get back open. Obviously, in this day and age, that's a challenge, and the library has some significant undertakings it has to take to comply with the governor's mandates and to do it in a reasonable and safe manner for the citizenry of Foxborough and our users of our facility. I mean, that's priority one for us, obviously. So I think, in the short term, we're focused on how do we make all of the wonderful things I've just described to you continually accessible to the patrons, because that is so important, but to do so in a way that keeps them safe and, equally importantly, keeps every one of our staff safe. Our staff is fantastic, and we wouldn't want to put any of them in harm's way. They are actually one of our most cherished resources. Longer term, I think our challenge is to continue to find programming that engages the community, to use the facility in a way that maximizes the benefit and the gift that the town has given us. And I do think, we've worked in the last couple of years on trying to develop a speaker series that can become sort of a keynote event that the town knows will be coming, and that they can look forward to it, and that we can use it as an opportunity to take the community and embrace it into not necessarily the library, but into what the library provides the community, an opportunity to engage in an intellectual way with authors or other programming that is something that we can build around for all ages. And we've done that in the last 3 years. We won't do it this year because of COVID, which is unfortunate. But we'll get back to it for 2021, we hope. And trying to make that a signature event for Foxborough is really something that I think the other trustees I know, but myself in particular, we're all striving to make happen.
Yeah, great. I was privileged to interview Gregory Maguire when he came, and then when you had author seats at the Mary Rodman Performing Arts Center instead of the community room. So it was really wonderful event. So I really appreciate you and other library staff to make our community together and then bringing so many resources to our lives.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're taking full advantage of it. It seems, so the Greg Maguire event was fantastic. To get the author of Wicked to come in and spend so much time with us he was wonderful. He was charismatic. His presentation was great, and he took you from his youth to his present day in terms of what motivated him as an author, as a writer, and where he got a lot of that from. And libraries played a part in that, which is a large part of why we were able to get him. And then last year we had Chris Bojalian who had written Transistor Radio and Buffalo Soldiers and so many other popular titles in today's fiction world, and he was fantastic to hear from. In our first year, we had Nathalia Holt, who had written a book called The Rise of the Rocket Girls. And what was great about that, about her as an author and about the topic, so we were doing a lot of focus on STEM and women in science. And so doing that allowed us to do a whole curriculum around it for kids. And so we had 12 programs that went around that one keynote event, including a night in Moose Hill doing astronomy, and a science build your own robots sets, and a series of other events that were really just fantastic. And those are exactly the types of programs we're hoping to build. Those take time, effort, money, and a real level of dedication from both the library staff and the trustees.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much for being on Around Foxborough, and then good luck to you for re-election for the 4th term.
Jerry, thank you very much for having me. And for folks in Foxborough that are watching, thank you very much for considering me for re-election. I look forward to serving Foxborough.
Wonderful. So thank you for our audience for watching another episode of Around Foxborough. My name is Julie Love. We have Michael Weber as our executive director, Paul Beck as our director. And if you had missed other episodes of Around Foxborough, you can go to fcatv.org and click on Around Foxborough. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.